How's it going, everybody? This is Derek with Team Evolution Rush of Ikorr, and today I'm coming to you with a brand new deck profile for the first set 2 deck that I have been working on, and that is Apollo, Prophet of Harmony. And I'm super excited to bring this deck to you. I know it's been a minute. Set 2 has been out for a couple weeks, and I have been working on decks. My teammate's been working on a couple decks, and we're just really trying to get some stuff in a good enough place to where we can show you some really cool new builds in case you're trying to figure out what direction to go with some of these new avatars. So really quick, I do want to say thank you to everyone who continues to watch any of my videos. I really enjoy this game, so I want to keep supporting it, and I want to keep making content as much as I can. Hopefully once the new year rolls around, I can do that a little bit easier. But for now, I'm going to do what I can. And we have this as well as 2 other deck profiles that are going to be coming very, very soon. One of them is an updated Sasano deck. The other one is a Monkey Twins deck. And then, of course, I do have Snake that I'm still kind of working on being happy with. And yeah, we're looking at a few other avatars as well. I'm also probably in the beginning of next year, as we kind of play around with these avatars a little bit more, maybe do another tier ranking on avatars and kind of how I feel they sit. And I also kind of want to do like my top 20 favorite cards from set 2 and kind of do a video talking about some of the really cool cards from set 2 a little bit more in depth. But yeah, until then, we're going to do a new deck profile, and we're going to talk about Apollo, the Prophet of Harmony. And I'm really stoked for this one. So a couple things. The reason I chose this one, well, there's a couple reasons. First of all, I really like Pythia, and I really like the Forsee mechanic, and so obviously this is the perfect avatar for that. But on top of that, this also is the avatar that has both of the new keywords, which is Forsee and Scrap. So if you haven't seen them or just don't really totally understand them, I felt like this was a good deck profile to do to kind of go over them. And of course, yellow-purple's a great combination. You know, yellow is my favorite color, and there's just so many really powerful cards. But we're really going to be abusing the strength of Pythia in this deck. She's just so powerful, and we're going to kind of go over more with her and some of the other cards. But yeah, essentially, here's how this card works. So foreseeing is you basically look at that many cards from the top of your deck and decide if you want to put them on the top or the bottom. And then scrapping is sending the top card of your deck to the grave. So this effectively says pay 2, look at the top 2 cards of your deck, order them however you'd like between the top and the bottom, and then you may send the top card of your deck to the grave, and if you do, draw a card. So very powerful. Being able to have this as your avatar ability is actually really insane. When you compare this to other avatars that just, say pay 2 and draw a card, for instance, like even Poseidon, like drawing your bottom card of the deck is great, like you're paying 2 to draw a card. But this allows you to manipulate that. But this also basically says, for just 2, look at top 2 cards, decide if you want one of them in the graveyard, or if you want one of them in your hand, or if you don't want one of them at all. Very powerful for 2. If that ability was on a spell, that was a 2-cost spell, you would 100% play it because it's just that strong. So very good ability to just allow us to look at the top 2 every single turn and determine, what we want to do. And then its rush ability for 2, any number of allied players may search their deck for a card and put it on top of their deck. So basically being able to find any card that you want or need, get it on top of the deck, and then in tandem with his avatar ability or maybe another card, you can get that card into your hand or maybe even into the grave, whatever you're trying to accomplish. So this is a very, very, very powerful avatar. It's very good. And so the direction of this deck is going to be very different than what you would build Zeus around, right? Zeus deals damage. So if I want to play purple and yellow and I have the choice between this and Zeus, I think you're going to build Zeus very differently than you're going to build this, because Zeus is a bunch of damage related cards, and this is more around like being able to just kind of control what you're going to be doing next. And those decks are going to just be built probably very differently. So that's another thing that's great. You have 2 totally separate avatars that function with 2 colors that are the same. And it just makes for an interesting way to build the decks. So I love that. So yeah, and of course I get to show off, I know I've been holding it for about 2 minutes now, but I get to show off this gorgeous full art Apollo, which I didn't realize I really needed until I pulled it. It's just so good looking. I love the alt arts in this set. So yeah, okay, so enough talking about that. Let's go ahead and get into the deck profile. And there are a few cards really quick before I actually get into the deck profile that we're gonna highlight. because they're really important to the strategy of what we're trying to accomplish with this deck, okay? So the first card of that is obviously Pythia. Pythia is just a powerhouse, man. She's so strong. Spells that you cast, she's a 2/07 Fabled champion. She's Greek, and spells you cast cost 1 less, which means that even if it costs 1, it costs 0, which is crazy. And then action, choose a card name, scrap 1, and if the scrapped card has the chosen name, secure 1 Ikorr. So this card has created a new strategy where we can win the game by securing Ikorr in a different fashion, basically. So yeah, this ability is very powerful, obviously. It just gives us a way to win the game without needing to do a lot. Not do a lot, but having these alternative win conditions separate from like set 1, we just had Great Pyramid, and we had the red-black avatar, right? Typhos, whatever his name is. And so now we have a totally different way of doing this, and we can just abuse the Forsee mechanic to the T to just make sure that every turn we're getting this ability off. Now, of course, we have to scrap the card that we reveal, so that's important, but that's not always a bad thing. So yeah, this card is just insane in every way, shape, and form. A 2 cost with 7 health is just so ridiculous. So she is another part of what we are building this deck around. The second card that we're building this deck around, and that I really wanted to kind of put a focal point on, was Homer. So Homer is a 5 cost 2/6 Fabled champion Greek that says summon Forsee 3, then scrap 1. And if the scrap card was a spell, the next Fabled card you play this turn costs X less, where X is the spell's influence cost. So good. So this deck is a little tricky if you try and build it with this, because we have to have a decent amount of spells that we can trigger off of this guy, and as well as a good amount of Fabled champions to get some good discounts on, which we do have. So, you know, this first kind of deck profile that I've been putting together, I'm fairly happy with to start, but obviously, you know, we got to kind of figure out where everything's going to kind of fit in, because the deck is 40 cards, and a deck like this, you could very easily put more than 40 cards, because there's a lot of other cards I still want to play. I just don't really know how to squeeze them in. But there's so many good Fabled cards between yellow and purple, so this card can be a massive discount type card, where if you hit a really good spell off the top of your deck, then all of a sudden you can cheat out this really big champion, which is super nice. So this is another card that we kind of put a focal point on this, to just get some really good bodies out. And yeah, pretty straightforward. So we're playing 2 of those and 2 of those. It's pretty straightforward. I'll just kind of put those up here because those are a focal point of the deck. So now let's get into the rest of the deck profile with what I have. So starting off, we have 2 Stargazers with Foresight, which is pretty standard. You know, the funny thing about Foresight is it is kind of perfect for this type of deck. What's also kind of broken, and this is why I feel like there's still an argument for this card to get banned, but like you play Stargazer with Foresight, and then you play Pythia on turn 1, and then obviously the card that you just looked at with Foresight, you can send off a Pythia and you can secure Ikorr on the first turn of the game. So you can do this on the first turn, which is really terrifying, because most cards are not going to be, or most decks won't be able to deal with Pythia for at least a couple turns. So yeah, Stargazer is obviously still very powerful, and we have to play it. Next we have 2 Heterodome. So we have a couple cards. We have Curious Relic on this one, and Apollo's Bow on the other one. So the Curious Relic one is pretty standard. It's just another good 1-drop to help us dig for Pythia. That's kind of the other thing. We need to get Pythia online pretty much as quickly as possible. So between Foreseeing and just between all the other cards that we have to draw, and like stuff like Curious Relic, we want to be able to just get to our Pythia ASAP. And then Apollo's Bow, just another really good infusion that we can stick on a cheap card to just Forsee 2 and scrap 1. If the scrap card was a spell, you get to deal 2 damage, which is also really nice. So, and then I specifically chose these ones being Greek for another reason that I'll show you here very soon. Then we have 2 Disguised Shinobi. I'm a little iffy on this one, I got to admit, but having the Roaring Aegis is nice to just turn 1 trigger Apollo's ability. So that's kind of what we're trying to do, is again, we're just trying to consistently get that Forsee off. So being able to play this on turn 1, use the Forsee ability. If it's your opponent had already gone and you have the ability to attack something and bounce this back, then that just means next turn you have another discounted avatar ability. Kind of the same way that we use it for Zeus to get free damage. We're using this to just get free, not free, but you know, discounted Foreseeing, which is nice. And then we have a new card, 2 Arcane Soldier. So this one is really intriguing to me. So we have Shroud of Yomi on one of them, and we have the Tressus of Nephthys on the other. So what this card does, it is a 1-cost champion that's Greek. Summon, choose another champion you control. If the chosen champion would die, prevent any damage that was dealt to it and sacrifice this champion instead. So naturally, you would probably want to stick something like Contemplate Impermanence. That way, when it dies, you just get to draw cards, so it replaces itself. There are a couple things you can put on this that is very useful since it's going to end up dying anyways. But one of the things I really like about this card is because with Shroud of Yomi, we can constantly add this copy back. Then we can play it, you know, protect the Pythia or protect something else. Your opponent has to deal with this before they go after the Pythia. So even though it's going to just die over and over and over, it's just going to sit there and be like, okay, I have to deal with this first before I can deal with something else, which sometimes matters. And then the Tressus of Nephthys is kind of the same fashion as, I guess, drawing a card. You could stick Contemplate Impermanence on it, but instead I chose this one because I get a card from my graveyard back. So if it's late game or something, I can go after a card on my graveyard that I've already used, which sometimes is more useful. So I liked that and chose that. A very solid 1-drop. Obviously, it's not a 1-drop. Well, the one that's the Shroud of Yomi, if you open that one, playing that like early in the game is not too big of a deal, but the other one is kind of like, eh. Then we have 2 Swift Messengers. I think Messenger in this deck is fine. We have Scroll of Curses on this one. Stun champion until the end of this turn. Can't lose all abilities, cannot be traded. We still get to draw 2 cards. Playing this one over the other one that forces it to attack to stun it, even though you get an extra card out of it, I preferred Scroll of Curses. And then this one, I have this new Tepenzatl, I don't know how to say that. Whenever you draw a card by card effect, refresh 1. This ability triggers only once this turn. I thought this was a really cool infusion that you could probably stick onto quite a few different cards. Putting on a 2/2 body is probably not the greatest thing. You probably want to stick this on a body that's going to stick around. But the fact that this basically turns into a 2-cost draw 2 is what we're doing. So we can play this, draw 2 cards, refresh 1, and then, you know, if we have a 1-drop or something that we can play in tandem to that, that kind of makes a nice difference. So that's what we're playing on the Swift Messengers. Again, lots of interchangeable infusions moving into this next set, but these are the ones that I kind of liked for these. And then, believe it or not, that's it. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 champions that have infusions on them. Obviously, there are other, you know, cheap 1-drops that you could play. There are a few other, actually, there's a lot of others that we can play. Like Scheming Vizier, I really wanted to play, but I cut Vizier because we have Forsee already kind of embedded into the avatar ability. There is also the Forsee infusion, which again, probably should be in here, but it's kind of tough finding enough champions that I want to play with it. So I try to just stay really practical with the cards that had these. You know, they're all cheap, they're all effective. These basically give me free looks on the top of the deck. These give me protection. These give me some draw, because the deck does not have a ton of draw power. So you know, you want to have a little bit, but yeah, obviously there's a lot of other cards that you can play with different infusions if you want to go that direction. But this right now is kind of what I'm trying out. Okay, the next up are all the Fabled cards to go with the homers. So first is Crises, Tenacious Priest. This is a 3/5/4 Fabled champion that says summon stun target opposing champion. If that champion's Greek, you may return a Greek champion from your graveyard to your hand. I'm actually tempted to play 2 of these because you have a lot of spells that if you hit almost any spell in the deck with Homer, you could drop this guy for free. But it's kind of just, it's crazy because like you play this, if you happen to stun a Greek, you get to add a Greek back, which is really powerful because like these are Greeks, right? These are both Greeks. And then you have a lot of, you know, like Pythia is a Greek, right? So like you could almost argue playing 2 copies of these. And a 5/4 body for 3 is crazy. And you get to stun something. So yeah, this is just, I think, a fantastic Fabled card. We played 1 Chiron. Again, it's a Fabled champion, it's Greek, and it searches for a Greek. So there's a lot of really good Greeks in the deck that you can search for off of this. So I figured one of those would be pretty good. 2 Chiomis, they're not Greek, but they're very powerful Fabled champions that give this deck some mid-range removal. So we're, of course, going to play that. Pegasus, another pretty solid Fabled champion. Rating and dealing damage is always nice. 2 Toyotomi, again, not Greeks, but this is, I kind of just think, a staple in almost any purple deck just to give you removal when you need it. And again, it's a Fabled, which is really nice. Odysseus, a good Fabled champion that's Greek, gives us draw power, additional draw power. It deals damage on summon. Just a very powerful card that definitely deserves to be in here. And then the last two are more flexes. So I'm trying out a Talos here. I obviously am not too sure about this card, but I'm not going to lie. I feel like this would kind of be a really fun card to just drop on the opponent, depending on the scenario. So it's a Fabled champion that's Greek. It's a 6/4/7 that raids for 2, and non-Greek champions can't raid. So we do have a couple non-Greek champions in the deck, not very many, but for the most part, a lot of other cards are Greek. So I thought maybe this would be a fun card to try and play in a deck like this, especially if we can cheat it out with the Homer. And then one Achilles, just because obviously Achilles is really good. I mean, sniping a card out of the opponent's hand and on the board is very powerful. It's a Fabled, so it can receive the discount, and it's a Greek, which is really nice as well. The other reason why I like some of these cards is, again, because of this Arcane Soldier. This Arcane Soldier is just so cool, man. Like, if you play this, snipe something out of their hand, and then play the Arcane Soldier and try and kill something, the Arcane Soldier will die and this will stick around, which just means your opponent has to deal with it more. But being able to protect stuff like even the Guardian or even Odysseus, like there's just so many things that Arcane Soldier can protect, which is really nice. Now, a few Fabled champions that aren't in my list that I definitely kind of want to maybe find a way to squeeze in is definitely the new Snake, what is it, Python, the 6-drop 3/7 that has lethal and prevents your opponent from drawing and adding cards. I really would like to get that card into the deck. Actually, I think I have a copy of it right here just to show you guys. That way you can see what I'm talking about. Not everyone may know all the card names based off of just their name. But this one right here, I would maybe consider trying to play this because a 6/3/7 body that is, you know, potentially can get a huge discount could be pretty insane. There's also Paris. He's another Fabled, a 4-drop Fabled, raids for 1, deals the damage. If he kills something, you store an Ikorr on it, so it can kind of maybe raid for 3. So I'm kind of looking at this one too. It's also Greek, which matters for like Chiron and stuff like that. So I'm looking at this one too as a potential candidate. And then obviously there's Anubis, which I think is just kind of, you know, depending on the matchup, Anubis could be here or there. So. But there are definitely, obviously, a lot of other really powerful Fableds that this deck can play. It's just a matter of trying to squeeze them all in there, and that's where I'm kind of torn on how many cards do I really want to try and play in this deck. Is 40 not enough? You know, I don't know. So that's all the Fableds. And then for the spells, we have 2 Thunderbolts. Pretty standard, I think. 2 Oracular Vision, helps us stack, pretty standard. 2 Burn Incense Ritual. There's a card that maybe some people would argue cutting, but I like being able to reuse cards, so I think the card's very strong. 2 Essence of the Dolphin. So this is one of the newer cards. So when it's sent from your hand or deck to the graveyard, choose another spell in your graveyard, and you can add it to your hand or put it on the bottom of your deck. And then its regular ability is choose a card name, reveal the bottom card of your deck. If that card has the chosen name, secure an Ikorr in the shelf of your deck. So obviously just a great card to mill off the top and you know, potentially get a spell back. And you can also secure some Ikorr with it. And then we have 2 Essence of the Wolf. So when this card's sent from the hand or deck to the grave, opposing champions get -1 raid until the beginning of your next turn. This can be very, very powerful going up against the aggro decks. And then retreat target champion with attacker 3 or less, which is pretty fantastic. And if you needed to, you could also retreat your own, which sometimes could matter. And then we play 2 Osiris Reborn. I am a little torn because I kind of want to play Curse of the Defiled, but I don't really think I need it. I think I like Osiris Reborn more just because any of the champions that I'm going to bring back, I'd rather them stick on the board. But as a 6-drop, this can give you pretty much a discount on everything except for Achilles. So I really like this card. And then for the sake of Homer and the discounts, I'm also playing 2 Great Ends. The other great thing about Great End is that, of course, if we get to that point where we get to turn 9 or 10, we have a board wipe that we can kind of utilize. But if this gets milled, it gives us a discount on pretty much every Fabled, which is very good. And then the last 2 cards, we are playing a Delphi and a Chichen Itza. Chichen Itza, I think, is pretty standard. I really like it in this deck to just recycle certain really powerhouse cards or stuff like Dolphin. Delphi, though, is really good. So this card lets us foresee 4, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a spell, you may add it to your hand. Very insane card. Plus, they're both Fabled. So, you know, obviously, if there's a chance these are in your hand with Homer, then maybe you could play these since it's a Fabled card. So yeah, so that is the deck profile of Apollo. And we're kind of just utilizing Pythia, we're utilizing the Forsee mechanic, we're utilizing Homer to cheat out some big Fableds. Now, obviously, if you don't want to do anything with like the Fabled stuff and Homer, I think Homer's still really good. You know, there's some other options you can do, but this is, you can clearly see where I'm kind of stuck with this deck because there's just a lot of really, really powerful cards. And there's, you know, I want to play other 1-drops and other cards. Like I thought about Funerary Priest, I thought about Scheming Vizier, but I'm just not totally sure they're necessary. And then I also thought about other Fableds, right? Like again, Python, Paris is actually very solid. But the more cards you add past 40, you also start to experience inconsistency, and that's where sometimes it can get a little weird. So I don't know. I think this is a great start for the deck. Obviously, let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions. You know, I have some more decks coming soon, so I appreciate it. But that being said, there's our Apollo deck for set 2. Appreciate the watches, any likes and subscribes. Team Evolution out.